However, the first thing here on the docket is John Boyega not fully agreeing with the choices made in Star Wars The Last Jedi. So, he said in an interview, and I quote, "The Force Awakens, I think, was the beginning of something quite solid. The Last Jedi, if I'm being honest, I'd say that was feeling a bit iffy for me," Boyega says. "I didn't necessarily agree with a lot of the choices in that, and that's something that spoke to Mark Hamill a lot about, and we had conversations about it. And it was hard for all of us because we were separated," end quote. So I just want to remind you guys, if you want to stay up to date with all the news, Marvel, and I also want to remind you guys, if you want to stay up to date with all the news, Star Wars and Disney of the past day, every single day, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any of my future episodes of Disney Dingus Daily at 7 p.m. Eastern. And if you enjoy this video, smash that like button down below. Let's see if we can get to maybe 5 likes for this video. Alright, so I think this is interesting to think about and interesting that he said this, and I love the honesty here. You can't really knock him for being honest. I think John Boyega seems like a really great guy, a really honest guy. He just sends off those kind of vibes in interviews. And when it comes to the Finn character, I can completely understand where he's coming from here. Because I think, I don't know if a lot of people would agree, but at least to me, in my personal opinion, the whole story around Finn and Rose and Canto Bight in The Last Jedi was totally useless. Now, I love The Last Jedi. I think The Last Jedi is fantastic. I love it quite a bit. However, it definitely could have used without the whole subplot with Finn and Rose and Canto Bight. Because if you think about it, that did nothing. That accomplished nothing at all in this movie. So you could take that out and you could have had a lot more time to develop their relationship and dynamic and story with Kylo Ren, with Rey, and with Luke. So I think that he's totally justified here in the sense that, I mean, he's justified anyway because it's his own opinion. We're all entitled to our own opinions. But I think I can agree with him here because the choices made with Finn in The Last Jedi were just completely, in my opinion, and this is coming from a guy who loves Last Jedi. I'm a huge Rian Johnson fan. I just feel like they weren't necessary. He was basically useless in this movie. Now, I wasn't a major fan of Finn either in The Force Awakens. However, he was at least useful in The Force Awakens, and I think, like he said, it was a solid start. And I would agree with that. I think The Force Awakens was a solid start for all these characters, and I think if you just use them in a way in The Last Jedi that was useful and that really built upon the characters, I think that would have improved these characters, in my personal opinion. Now, something to think about, though, that I think Rian Johnson may have run into the issue with is that he has these characters that J.J. Abrams made in The Force Awakens. You know, he has to use Rey, he has to use Kylo Ren, he has to use Finn, he has to use Poe. Obviously, Rey and Kylo Ren are really the two main characters of this trilogy. So he's going to focus the story mainly on them. But then he runs into the issue of, what do I do with Finn and Poe? What do I do with them? So he might have run into the situation where he doesn't really know what to do with them. He wants to focus more on Rey and Kylo Ren, but he has to use Finn and Poe. So then he just puts them on this useless subplot because it's not really important. And in his mind, maybe those characters aren't as important and not as necessary as characters like Rey and Kylo Ren. That's a possibility too. So I agree with John Boyega when he says this, that he doesn't really agree with what happened with Finn and the choices made for his character in The Last Jedi. However, I think that this is an interesting thing to think about because while, in my personal opinion, I think John Boyega is completely right about him not agreeing with the choices made in The Last Jedi regarding Finn's character, I think, obviously, that we all know that Mark Hamill was very vocal about not agreeing with the choices made with Luke in The Last Jedi. And I want to touch upon that for a little bit because I think Mark Hamill is dead wrong. I think the way Mark Hamill was thinking about it, and I think that's the way that a lot of fans are thinking about it too, is that Luke is just the same character that he was 30 years ago. Nothing changed him. What Mark Hamill wanted to see and wanted to do probably was just face the First Order with a laser sword and mow down as many AT-ATs and Stormtroopers and Kylo Ren as he possibly can. I don't necessarily think Mark Hamill was, and I think a lot of fans of Mark Hamill were kind of, in their mind, they were thinking about what they want to see, what they want Luke Skywalker to do, and they didn't really leave an open mind for the actual story and what makes sense with the story for Luke to actually do. Because Luke's story in The Last Jedi makes complete sense. It's not what any of us were expecting Luke to do, but that's because we're fans. We're not storytellers, we're fans. There's a reason why we aren't writing these movies. And when you think about it, and when you just watch the movie with an open mind, you realize this makes a lot of sense. Luke Skywalker is Luke Skywalker. So, of course, he's going to take the blame for failing his own nephew. In his mind, Kylo Ren, or Ben Solo, being turned to Kylo Ren and being seduced by Snoke and turning to the dark side and becoming the second Vader, he blames himself for that. So he thinks that since he caused Kylo Ren to become the next Vader, he thinks that the galaxy is safer without him, so he's going to go into exile because he thinks he's doing the galaxy a favor. That is so Luke Skywalker. And then a lot of people complain about that one scene where Luke Skywalker has the split-second thought to maybe kill Kylo Ren before he can cause any genocide. And again, that's still Luke Skywalker. Remember, Luke Skywalker is the same guy that blew up the Death Star, killing millions of people, millions of innocent people as well. Keep that in mind. Number 2, Luke has dealt with the dark side his entire life. The whole point of Return of the Jedi is him going towards the dark side more and more and more until finally at the end he rejects it. Number 3, I think a lot of us forget that at the end of Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker goes completely ham on his own father and totally dives into the dark side. But since he's Luke Skywalker, he rejects it. However, he saw everything that Vader did. And he saw what Kylo Ren was going to do. He saw that Kylo Ren was going to destroy however many planets he destroyed in The Force Awakens. He saw that Kylo Ren was going to commit mass genocide. So being Luke Skywalker, he had a split-second decision like, hey, should I end this now before anybody gets hurt? It's a situation like, if you go back in time, do you kill baby Hitler? He's still a kid. He's a baby. But you know everything he's going to do. It's the same exact situation with Luke. However, since Luke Skywalker is Luke Skywalker, he doesn't do it. But Luke Skywalker is human. He's human. I think that's something a lot of us forget. Luke Skywalker is a human being. He's not some Twi'lek. He's not, I mean, technically he is technically an alien, but Luke Skywalker is a human person with flaws. With flaws. And Luke Skywalker would definitely, being that hero, he would have that split-second decision of, I don't know, like, do I stop this from happening? Do I stop a second Vader? I saw everything Vader did. I saw how terrible the galaxy was. I saw how many people were killed. Do I allow that to happen again? And he's going to have that split-second decision of, and thought of, I can end this now before anybody gets hurt. But like I said, because he's Luke Skywalker, he doesn't do it. And him going into exile was him also being Luke Skywalker. He's taking the blame. There is no more... That is Luke Skywalker to the core. He's going to take the blame. It's his fault. In his mind, it's his fault that Kylo Ren turned. And it's his fault that there is this mass genocide. So he's going to go into exile. Because he feels like he's doing the galaxy a favor. But of course, Luke Skywalker isn't perfect. So then Yoda appears to him and he's like, yo, stop. You're being an idiot. It's not your fault. Go help Rey. Go help the Resistance. And Luke, again, not being perfect, still has things to learn, learns from Yoda in that moment. And at the end of the movie, Luke Skywalker does the most Luke Skywalker thing he could do. He does, one, the most powerful thing that any Jedi could do, any Force user could do, and that makes sense that Luke Skywalker could do that. He's Luke freaking Skywalker. And 2, he does it knowing it will kill him. He sacrifices himself because he's Luke Skywalker. And 3, he does it for the betterment of the galaxy, but also, and more importantly, he does it to save his sister. Luke Skywalker's final act is doing the most powerful thing any Force user could do, knowing that it'll kill him, for his sister, to save his sister. That is the most Luke Skywalker action he could have done. Now, would it have been cool to see Luke Skywalker whip out his green lightsaber and totally wreck a bunch of stormtroopers and totally wreck Kylo Ren and totally destroy its Star Destroyer and a bunch of AT-ATs? Of course it would look cool. But things looking cool and the story making sense are two completely different things. Also, I want you to keep that thought in mind on a week from Friday when... Just keep that thought in mind for a week from Friday. So when you think about it story-wise, everything that Luke does makes sense. Luke Skywalker is human. 30 years is going to change somebody. Anybody is going to be changed in 30. Everyone's going to be changed in 30 years. Especially with all the stuff that Luke has gone through. Everything that he went through with his father. And everything he went through with Kylo Ren. He feels like he failed not only his nephew, but his best friend Han, his brother-in-law Han, and his sister Leia. He's human, guys. Again, would it have been cool for Luke to face the First Order with a laser sword and totally obliterate fools? Of course. But there's a difference between things looking cool and something actually making sense story-wise. And like I said, remember that for a week from Friday. That's going to come back in one of these episodes. So what do you guys think about this? Do you agree with John Boyega that maybe some of the choices with Finn weren't that great? And do you agree with Mark Hamill? Maybe some of the Luke Skywalker choices I didn't agree with. Or do you agree with me where, yeah, John Boyega, I think he's right there. I think Finn could have been handled better, and I think Luke was handled perfectly, and it makes complete sense story-wise. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below.